Hello, everybody. I'm Valerie Gilchrist, and this is Esther's Purpose. I have an amazing guest tonight. His name is Kent Wade, and I'm going to introduce him in just a moment. Before I do, I always want to remind my viewing and listening audience that we are broadcasting from WYTV7 out of Charlotte, North Carolina. We are a national and international broadcasting organization that is actually a nonprofit. We would love if you would go to WYTV7.org, click that donate button and donate to us so that we can continue to bring encouragement around the world to those who are lost, to those who are hurting, to those who need that inspiration to keep moving, because we know that there are things that go on in all of our lives that we just need some inspiration and some courage to keep going. And that's what I like to do with Esther's Purpose, is to bring my guests on that can share their lives and encourage you to keep going. So that said, let me introduce you to my guest tonight. My guest is Kent Wade. The name Kent has two meanings: light and bright, and calmly and finally born of fire. Kent Wade, also known as the library guy, has 13 years of library and customer service experience. After obtaining a GED and associates, there was a fire lit that still burns strong for sharing the value of education, especially from the community college level. Since 2009, Kent Wade has been using public speaking, motivational speaking, hosting, emceeing, facilitating, and storytelling to cultivate difficult situations. From working with youth to empowering professionals, the mission is for others to regain their ambition despite the heaviness of life. Last summer, Shake the Fear, a public speaking workshop geared towards overcoming the fear of speaking, was launched and now is offered as a non-credited class at, now I'm gonna mess this up, Ken, but he's gonna do it right for me when he gets on there. I was trying though, Ken, I was trying to get it out. But where he's from in Illinois, but I'm gonna let him do that. At the community college where he lives, Wade's ability to be a change agent earned him a 40 under 4 award in 2016, as well as many other plaques and certificates. Ken is also CEO of Lift with Ambition, a LLC in the making, to help others grow in telling their stories and heal their way. Ken is also a husband, father to 4, and uncle to many, many, many he mentors. Kent Wade, how are you?
I'm doing great. It is so, humbling to hear you read my bio. I'm like, I have chills. Like I don't even deserve to sit right here. It's so hard to sit with you.
Yes, you do. You absolutely do. You are an amazing, amazing person. And for my audience benefit, I started following Kent when he was doing his Shake the Fear, because it really got my attention, because I'm one of those, people don't believe it, but I have horrible stage fright. Always have, ever since I was little. So it caught my attention when he started doing that. But Kent, before I let you talk about that, let's bring our audience up to date concerning who you are, Kent Wade. Talk to us about wherever you want to start, that in your beginnings, how you were brought up and things that kind of moved you in the direction where you're going.
Yes, ma'am. Currently, I live in a city called Kankakee. You could just break it down 3 syllables. Kankakee, Illinois. It's so hard to pronounce. But I've been here since I was 15 years old. My story starts October 28th, 1986, where I was born in Richmond, California, to the late Linda Brown and Joe Brown. Unfortunately, due to life decisions that were not the best, I ended up under my grandmother's care. I had heart issues, lung issues, underdeveloped lungs as a premature baby. They said my mother's due date for me to come out was Christmas, but I ended up coming out 3 days before Halloween. So I don't know if that was a preview to what was going to come, but my grandmother was unfortunately unable to take care of me. I ended up in foster care, later to be adopted by the late Addie Wade, who was a God-fearing woman. I was raised Seventh-day Adventist when I was under her care. We moved from California when I was 8 to Illinois. I've been here ever since. I still hate snow to this day. Um, but I ended up moving to Kankakee when I was 15. In the earlier years of my life, I just knew something wasn't, I didn't know I was adopted, for one. My mother who raised me was born in 1931. So she had a grandmother vibe, but I called her mom. It wasn't until 6th grade I started asking questions like, everyone else sort of looked like, my nephew looks like his mother, everyone has these bonds, but I just feel out of place. And that's when she told me that I was adopted. And that's when the anger started to really not only pile up, but just began to be explosive. And I wasn't, I wasn't a person that just fought people for the fun of it or anything like that, but I was a quiet kid that was made fun of, so I was in a shell. So when 6th grade got around, that's when I started using the gift of gab, or as we call it, jonesing, or talking about people to avoid being bullied. The goal is, I guess at that time, was for me to really understand the vision that my mother had, which I could not do. I was a young Black male, no father figure, raised by a woman who was on Social Security, doing all that she could do. But I did not see the value in that. And so I later she didn't move me out of her care, but there was a friend of the family that volunteered to take care of me. And I went to stay with him. And the saying, the grass always seems greener on the other side. And until I got there. Once I got there, I then realized that it was not the best thing. I was a freshman in high school when that happened. My mother started to get sick. She was unable to take care of me and my nephew. My nephew at the time, the gentleman that I lived with, unfortunately had no hot water, no running electricity of his own. And I ended up developing walking pneumonia. Once I developed that, got real sick, my mother had me stay with my sister, my adopted sister, Angie. And that's when I moved to Kankakee officially as a freshman in high school. When I started, I missed the whole first semester, freshman year, got no credits, went to my second semester, and in my second semester, they put me in classes that I had taken when I was in junior high. And so instead of getting the easy A, I started clowning around, trying to become the class clown. And I ended up missing so many credits going into my sophomore year. That affected me as I went through my sophomore year and into my junior year, which they decided that they would put me in alternative school. I said I wasn't doing alternative school. I didn't care what the cost was. And they gave me an opportunity to say, hey, you can get your GED. I did not know that meant dropping out of school. I didn't know anything about that. I heard people doing it, but I didn't know. My mother, again, had gotten older. My sister had her own kids to raise, and I was just defiant at 17 years old. And my mother told me, whatever you do, I support you. And that's when I went to get my GED. My sister at the time said, you know what, you're doing all these things that's not productive. You're exposing my kids to defiant behavior. So you're going to have to find a place to go. And so at the same time, I became a high school dropout. I became homeless at 17 years old. And that was when the library came into my world. I was already a library goer because that's where all the smart, cute girls went. I was going to say it. That's where they went. So that's where I went. And eventually what happened was when I dropped out, they was wondering, why are you here during the day? And I told them, this is what happened. And a lady by the name of Camille Rose introduced me to another woman by the name of Lisa Weaver. And I believe in giving people their flowers while they're living. That's why I'm making sure I say their names. And they got me on the road to get my GED. And then I ended up staying with a friend's mother, Miss Kathy White. I have so many mothers. It doesn't make sense. But Miss Kathy came in and she took me in and she allowed me to stay with her until I got my GED at 18. I met my family, my mother, my birth mother, my sisters at that time. So I started going through these changes. I was still angry. I was still frustrated, but I started going through these changes. But as these changes were happening, I didn't know what to do with the positive energy. And so when we got our first apartment, me and my friends, we began hanging out. It was like a fraternity. The only thing was I was the only one going to school. So I eventually, after my first 2 years, acquired a 0.64 GPA average. my first 2 year of college. It was bad. But then a blessing came. My girlfriend at the time ended up pregnant. My first child, my oldest child, Keyshawn, which means gift from God. She told me he was coming. And so much excitement. I called my birth mother. I called my adoptive mother first, told her, called my birth mother, and I told her. And my birth mother was like, just excited. She was trying to get into my life now, and we had patched things up. And I just told her I'd call her back. And this was a Friday. I remember it clear as day. It was a Friday in May. Sunday, I got a call that she had passed away in her sleep. And that was the first time in my life I had someone I loved or someone that I was connected to pass away. And I wanted so many years to be with her. And the moment that I got the opportunity, I felt she was taken from me. And that was my first real stint walking into depression. And so over the years after that, I was starting to feel myself, started to smell myself, wasn't ready for the family life. And I eventually, me and my son's mother split apart. And then I was homeless again because I didn't have any family. My mother was in assisted living. My sister had her own situation with her kids. I was doing some things that was problematic for her to allow me to stay with her. So I was literally washing up in the bathroom at the library, which I had got a job after I got my GED at 18. So I had that connection with the public library. I then eventually got a job at the college library that I'm in right now. In 2008, I got a student worker program, a permit, and I became a student worker. So I was working 2 jobs. I was washing up in bathrooms. I was hanging out with friends to stay the night. And my son did not see me for about 2 weeks. When I went to get him for the first time after I found a somewhat stable place to live, he wanted nothing to do with me. He cried. And Valerie, Mama Val, I gotta give it the proper respect. It broke my spirit because then I felt like I felt like my son was me looking for a father figure, and I wasn't there, and I had to do something different. And that's when I turned the gear all the way up and started using my story. And I didn't know it was my story at the time. I just needed help. I needed a place to live. I needed help from United Way. I needed to go to the food pantry. And so many doors kept saying no. And it's so hard for men at that time. It was hard for males to get the services that a lot of women who had children were able to gain. And I don't mean that in any ill fashion. It was just, that was the reality that I faced. But I would tell them no. Literally, I would tell them no. I have a son. I'm looking to change my life around, and this is my story, and this is what I'm doing for it. And got my first apartment, started making different changes, got back to school, ended up getting my associates after repairing my GPA. And that's when I started noticing I had a story, and it began to step out into the world. And how I got to public speaking in 2009 was a whole nother story, but that is where my beginning to understand that I had a story and it mattered.
Okay, I just went right along with you with that whole thing. It did. It really resonated with me. And when you brought us all the way to where it was affecting your son, and that's what a lot of people don't. We always say, those of us that are parents, that we're going to do better than our parents did, right? Yeah. And then all it does is take that one child to say, and I remember when my children, I have twins, and they're 36 now, they'll be 37 soon, and they were about in their teens, and they said to me one day, Mom, you are doing the same thing that you were complaining about Granddad doing. You don't do it exactly like he did, but you're doing the same thing. And I felt just like you. It was like, wow, I thought I was doing different. But I mean, we repeat what we've been taught. As much as we try to break it, we just do. But that's great. Thank you for sharing all of that with us and giving us an idea. So now tell me, when I encountered you last year and you were doing your Shake the Fear, what motivated you to do that?
At that period of time, I was actually going to stop doing public speaking. I have a young family now. Me and my wife, we've been married 4 years, going on 5 in September, September 14th to be exact. Love you, Courtney. We had 3 children together. We also raised my co-parent with my son, so we have 4 in total. The timing was from 2009 till last year. My wife has been the most supportive person in my life, backing me, supporting me. We met actually in 2008 when I got that first apartment. I actually was homeless when we met each other. She was coming back and forth, visiting into town, and I was homeless. And at this juncture last year, it was like I've been going to schools, I've been doing workshops, I've been going around the city of Chicago, I've been traveling across the United States in different areas, and it just won't pick up. And so at that moment, I was waiting for people to see that I had a story and to utilize me to whatever audience they wanted. And I was going everywhere for free, using gas money up, using things up. And it got to a point where my wife was like, Kent, like, I have a dream too. This is my dream. And I felt at that time it was proper for me to help focus her dreams, because it's not this, we didn't have this, oh, I'm the man and you're behind me and this is what it is. No, it was, we're going to walk in greatness together. And so when she started telling me about going back to school for her master's, and when she started doing her jewelry business, it was like, you know what? This can no longer just be a hobby anymore. I can't just do this part-time. I have to figure out ways to do what I love to do, which is sharing my story, helping other people, but then begin to turn it into a business. And so I've been hearing people talk about, man, how do you speak in public? I get so nervous. The teams I work with, they were like, man, Ken, I love what you do with your Facebook Lives. You look like you have no fear. And in all honesty, I'm the most nervous, self-conscious person, probably one of the people there is. But Shake the Fear was birthed because, one, I wanted to show my wife that this was not just a hobby. This is what I love to do. And at the second point of it was, where can I start to make an impact with doing what I'm a master in? And so again, Brian Olds, who is the founder, the greatest guy ever with Black Speakers Network, I have been following him. I have been following you. I have been following so many different individuals who packaged their mastery. They packaged what they knew best. And so I began to share how I overcame my public speaking fear, or even talking to people outside of my comfort zone, whether they were non-believers, whether they were believers, whether they were white, whether they had a different political view. I then began to realize, I conquered a fear unknowing to me, to make sure that I got to the places that I need to be. So how about I give that back to people? And that's where Shake the Fear came up from a conversation of, we have this fear and we got to shake that fear to get to where we're trying to get to.
Wow. Now see, that's a good story, doing that transition, because a lot of time, here's what I love what you just did for us tonight. You brought us up to how you got here, all of the things that went on, right? Brought in your child, your first child, brought in your wife, brought in the whole family dynamic, brought in what you were doing, and then you still yielded that to support your wife, what she's doing as well. Because one of the things, you guys went to DC, and what anniversary you guys just celebrated? Was it the anniversary or somebody's birthday? What made y'all go to DC just recently?
It was my birthday.
Your birthday, okay, yeah, that's right. It was your birthday. And you were sharing with everybody, and you were showing it, and you were doing lives. And I agree with the audience. You cannot tell that you were ever afraid to do that because of how open and honest you are. Because, a lot of times fear comes in when you're not sure of who you are, or, do you really want to share your story or all of that? But you're very confident, and I can tell that you don't have a problem telling your story, especially to encourage others. And you're so transparent about it, which is what draws you in when you're talking, because what is it, 60 seconds? That's one of your 60 seconds of motivation. Yes. Now that was one of the things that I was clicking on every time you would come on. This is Kent Wade. This is 60 seconds of motivation. I'm like, okay, hold on, click, because I want to hear what he's saying today. And even those little sound bites that you give, I don't even know that you realize how impactful that you really are and how much you encourage people. Because, when I start tracking somebody, I'm going, okay. And it might be just, it might be just there's a period of time where it'll catch my attention because it's something, and I realize it for myself, it's something that I need right now. And at that time even though I was doing the things that you saw me do, and that's what people I think sometimes forget about people like you and I, that we'll get on the show and we'll talk and we'll share our lives, but we have issues like everybody else. Yes. And we need Kent Wade's 60-second motivation. I need that today. Did he do one today? Oh, wait, he did it on Instagram. Oh, okay, let me go in there and find him. Because I used to stalk you just so that I could get that when I was not having a good day. You know what I mean? Yes. And it's not so much that you are having a good day every day. You know how to talk yourself out of it by talking other people through it. And that's what's so awesome about you, how you do that. Because sometimes I've watched you so much, and I'm sure people probably do it with me too. You can kind of tell when you're kind of struggling that day, but yet you're still doing what you got to do. You need to do it. And you're just so easy when you do it. And I think that's what makes people really gravitate towards you and what you do. And I just honor you in that, and Kent. And so we're going to break here for just a moment. I just want to remind our viewing and listening audience that I'm Valerie Gilchrist. This is Esther's Purpose. We're talking to my guest today, Kent Wade. We're broadcasting from WYTV7 out of Charlotte, North Carolina. We are a nonprofit organization. We'd really appreciate it if you would go to WYTV7.org, click that donate button, donate. $7 goes a long way with a nonprofit organization. We would really appreciate it so we can have more people come on like Kent Wade to encourage us with their stories. So Kent, so what are you doing now? What is your focus now?
My focus right now it's almost threefold. As I said, my wife is back in school for her master's. That's not an easy task. She works full time. I work full time. I also work part time on the weekends. We have 3 children at home, and my oldest son, who is constantly busy with travel basketball, with school. And so one of the things that we're doing right now is building a village and a foundation as we are almost stretching ourselves thin. People say we're crazy for doing it, for doing all these different things at once. But we have had this conversation with us for our family, our roots, our brand, as the Wades, that we waited so long to take advantage of the skill sets that God has given us. So now, if He gives us breath, we're going to manage the time that we are given, that 24 hours. Sometimes it's a little unsteady because we over schedule, we underplan. Life circumstances happen. Like baby boy got on the bus today, all fine. I got a call from my wife 20 minutes later that he threw up in the cafeteria as soon as he got to school. So we're just building a foundation in the village to do the things that we love to do, that we're looking to do, because we're looking to change a culture with our children. She grew up without a father. She grew up with her mother and her family. I grew up without a father. I grew up with my mother. And we want to create a generational wealth, a generational understanding, and a generational confidence. Like you said, that you see with me, that confidence is literally 15, 20 years in the making. Had I had this confidence coming out of high school, it would have been different. Even my son, he moves different at 6th grade than I did because of the things that he has. And so one thing is definitely building that village and that foundation. The second thing is that I'm working on is product research and data from the work that I do. Oftentimes, I'm called off to workshops, I'm called off to speak and present, to go to different classrooms, and I get so caught up in the energy of working with the as I call them, the babies, that I forget to get the surveys. I've used to forget the video footage, the photography, because when people are looking to bring you in, if, say, for instance, to come to North Carolina, people want to see, what are you doing? What does it look like? How is it packaged? Why should I bring you? There's thousands and thousands of speakers. What makes you different than anyone else? And I really believe that I believe everyone has a unique story. But what makes me unique is my ambition, which is defined as a desire that requires determination and hard work. And that desire is to change the future for my children. If that means I have to talk to a kid over in Atlanta to motivate them to become that politician that may change a law, that may go in an effect that changes the country, that ultimately affects the life of my grandchildren, that's my desire, to change something that I won't see. And so I have to package and get that footage and become a corporation in my own right. And then the third thing is really, me and my wife have journeyed into the sense of mindfulness. Not just studying and not just praying and not just meditating, but literally taking time out to breathe, to meditate, to pray, and have a clear focus, because you be going, but I still have to heal that little boy inside, that as I see my son not having to worry about certain things, there's a part of me that still misses my mother. There's a part of me that still, that needs to heal. And we all as adults, like you said about your boys, they reminded you that you were doing something that granddad did. And those moments that we don't take out to heal because we think we're doing it right could be the detriment to ourselves and our mission at hand. And so the foundation of my family, the village around my family, creating more of a brand, a corporation around Lift With Ambition and the name Kent Wade. And then lastly, creating and studying what does mindfulness look like for me. It may not be the same way my mother taught me. It may not be the same way my sister practiced, but I have to find what brings me that peace to be able to heal properly.
Yeah, that's good, Kent. And you know, one of the things that when you were talking about, you know, what my girls had told me too was that actually that was my Kairos moment. At that moment when they made that, and I want to say they were 15, but when they said that to me, it made me start thinking about a lot of things that you're talking about. I couldn't put it in words like that then, but what it then did was now made me more intentional about what I was doing, because we don't have a model. You know, our model, whether we liked it or didn't, is how we were raised and how we were handled. And as much as we try to break the mold, you have to do it intentionally. Therefore, the mold has to really start with you. And when you talked about that little boy being healed on the inside, I get it. I mean, I'm getting ready to be 50 something this year. And there's still things just recently, you know, over the last couple of years, but I just had some major surgery last year. And that was, in all of my years, I've been working since I was 9, consistently. And so when you start talking about cold, my father was Air Force and he retired in Nebraska. And I remember when we moved to Nebraska, I was 9. So my first job was delivering newspapers, and I delivered those papers for 6 years until I was 16 and went to work at McDonald's. And that was 365, you know. And so we walked to school, we walked home from school, and we delivered papers. And you had to deliver those papers because he, you know, taught us about, you know, business. Okay, it doesn't matter, it's Christmas. You got to go deliver the papers and then come home and open up your gifts. It didn't matter what was happening. You come home from school, you walk home from school, get a snack, go roll those papers, because as soon as you drive up, get home, walk home, there's all these newspapers in the driveway. You got to roll them up, get a snack, go out there, deliver it. So, I mean, I get it, right? And so, we had so much structure. There was no time for me. I can only speak for me. I can't speak for my siblings, but I never had time to dream, imagine, think, none of that. What do I want to be? What do I want to do? Because all of that stuff was always done for me all of the time. Right. So when I had my 50th birthday party some years ago, I had marked it that day. Okay, you know what? This is the year of Jubilee. I'm getting ready to get free of all of that. And it has been a laborious journey because it's so easy to fall back to what you used to do. Yes. You can come up with a lot of things, but if you don't have something in place to bring you back, to trigger you, to let you know you've fallen back into that groove, come back out of that groove. And usually, I'll start writing, and I write, and I don't write for anyone else. I write talking to me, right? Yes. And
Yes.
as I write, talking to myself and telling my own story, when I did my book last year, and I actually had a ghostwriter who actually had to write it for me because it was so painful to do that. To write, when you were sitting there talking out, you had me with you your whole journey. And when I was talking to her, and I was, and you know, and she was, and when I first looked at it, I must have read it many times before I even released it, because it was just, because I started seeing some stuff. And that's when I actually started seeing the pattern of going back and watching my mom's story and talking about my dad and how they met and how their marriage was and how it wasn't. And I started seeing that pattern, where it came from and why I think the way that I think and why I made the decisions that I made. And, you know, just trying to now get some footing, some better footing. So a lot of the choices that I'm making now came from having that book. And, you know, it might never be a bestseller. It really doesn't matter whether it is or not. It's selling. And I know it's helping because people contact me and let me know that it is. And because everybody has a story and everybody needs to know that you have one. There's nothing to be ashamed about. That's who you are. You know, part of your ability to change and break free is to be honest about your beginnings, right? And be able to be transparent with people. So that is just awesome, hearing you do that and talking about what do you want to do with your kids. Because by the time I've now come to this realization, my kids are doing great. They're both professionals. They're doing wonderful. I just praise God for it, because I know it wasn't from my efforts as they were growing up, because I still was thinking some kind of way. But you know, they're very strong, and I have teenagers, grandchildren. Matter of fact, my oldest grandchild, he is graduating this year from high school. He just got his license, and he's getting ready to go on an honor scholarship to oh my goodness, to in Statesboro. He's getting ready to go there. Very intelligent young man. But as I watch them, it's them now. My focus, where you talked about your sons, I talk about my grandchildren like that, because I get it now. And my children are 30 something. And so, you know, and they're doing well, and they've made different decisions, and I'm very proud of where they are and what they're doing. And I know that I had things to do with that, but my grandchildren are who my focus is now. Is I want to make sure that they don't go down that road, because what we don't realize is it's still in the genes. Even if they didn't have that exact environment, there are things genetically that are going to be still there. So that's some of that stuff that come up and grab you that you didn't know anything about if someone doesn't tell you. So I share with them that way so that they do. But so Kent, so in our last few minutes, I want you to do two things. I want you to give all your social media handles, how people can contact you, to make sure that when they've watched this and they've heard your story, and there might be some young man out there, and then there might be some young ladies out there that are saying, you know what? You know, you really helped make me understand my brother, my dad, my, you know, my friend, my husband. I mean, and they might want to contact you and say, hey, you know, I heard what you said. And, you know, and can I ask you this question about how do I, as the friend, sister, you know, mom, wife, whatever it is, how can I help? How can I make this better, you know, in dealing with who I'm dealing with? So give us your social media handles and tell us what's next for you.
Okay, so you can find, I have a website that I just relaunched at IamKentWade.com. So on that website, you'll see my bio, you'll see things that I've done, small packages that I do with public speaking, because I not only do public speaking, I also host events. So poetry slams, workshops, concerts. I mean, I've hosted birthday parties. Whatever you need to have your story told, or to have someone help bring that, a certain creative, interactive energy, because I have a ton of it. But my website, again, IamKentWade@IamKentWade.com. My email address, I'm a big emailer. I know that's sort of going out of date for a lot of people, but you can also email me at IamKentWade@gmail.com. On Facebook, my personal page is Kent Wade. And my professional business page is Lift with Ambition. So you're lifting with ambition. And then Instagram is the same thing, only there's underscores. So Lift_with_ambition. Same with Snapchat, which is a very popular social media site right now. It's Lift with Ambition. On Twitter, my name is Team Ambition 3 on Twitter. I'm getting back, into Twitter. Twitter was, I don't know what happened. It just kind of went in and then phased out, but now it's coming back. And then I'm also on LinkedIn as Kent Wade. And so those are the different places that you can find me on social media. I do 60 seconds of motivation on Instagram and also on Facebook. And so those are the social media sites. What's next for me? I am working on 2 books. I'm working on a children's book with the library guy, using the library guy as motivation to kind of give small tips to young males how to become young gentlemen. So in a sense. And so I'm using the creative fashion of that. I'm also working on a book of quotes because I love quotes. I love sayings. I love stories. And so I'm compiling a book of quotes with small stories using my own life experiences. And my goal is to have those books prepared for being edited to go into publishing by my birthday, which is October 28th of this year. So please be on the lookout for that. We're also, my team that I work with in Kankakee and Chicago, we do open mics. So if you're in the Kankakee or Chicago, if you're in the Chicagoland area, very rare you be in Kankakee, but if you're in the Chicagoland area, you can inbox me on social media, Kent Wade, or you can find our page, Stylist Coalition, on social media as well. I host those events with a set of artists, rappers, singers, poets, engineers, DJs, hosts, speakers, using that writing style as a way to help people. Shake the Fear, the workshop, is coming to Kankakee Community College. It's a non-accredited class. It's a $39 registration fee, and it will be in the first week of June. We don't have a date yet. I'm waiting for the book to come out officially, but the first week of June is when that class will be offered. I'm also working to do some traveling over the summer. So if I'm in the area of your state and you see my footage, check my website for updates as far as where I'll be at. Please message me. I love to find ways to make the most of my time. So if I happen to be in Chicago and I have an engagement, there's nothing wrong with 2 or 3 engagements in one day. I feel like that's how you stay active. That's how you maximize your time. And most of all, like I said, please be on the lookout for different videos, different webinars that I'm working on with certain people, just like Ms. Valerie, you having me come on and share this time with you. There are people who have been seeking me out to have me come on and share my story. And so those are the things that I'm working on this year. And I'm excited. I have a nephew that's graduating this year too from high school. It's mind blowing because from my namesake, we haven't had a male graduate high school in a while. So we're making those small steps to get to where we need to get to. I'm excited for what this year have to offer. And if you want to connect with me, you can definitely find me on any of the social media outlets, my website, or my email address.
All right, Ken. Well, thank you so very much. I want to let my viewing and listening audience know that if you want to see Ken's story again and any of my Esther's Purpose broadcasts, you can go to WYTV7.org, and we now have a 24/7 TV to watch any of my Esther's Purpose shows. You can go to WYTV7.org and check out our new very own TV channel. So Kent he unpacked. He gave you a lot of great information. You need to go back and listen and listen and listen. And he gave you all the information where you can reach out and have him come be a speaker. For anywhere you need him, he told you how to reach him. You will get value. Trust me, you need to connect with this man. Kent Wade, thank you so very much for your sacrifice. Thank you so much for coming. And I know you're a very, very busy man, but I so appreciate you. I also want to let everyone know that, remember, that you can also contact me. www.esterspurpose.org is my website. You can go on there. That's how you can contact me for speaking engagements. It's through that site. I'm also on Facebook. I'm on Twitter as Valerie Gilchrist, Valerie Parker Gilchrist, as Valerie_Gilchrist on Instagram, as Esther's Purpose on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. I'm on LinkedIn as Valerie Parker Gilchrist. Esther's Purpose is not yet on LinkedIn, but I am, therefore Esther's Purpose is. But you can also watch our shows. Remember, you can see us in all of those different venues where you can watch us still, and watch all of my Esther's Purpose shows on Spreaker and all of those different places that you hear me talk about. But thank you again, Kent Wade, you all, my audience. Thank you all so much for being with us tonight. I really appreciate you all. We'll see you all again next week. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Take care.